It will give you the basic action items that were taken, but also will dive in and say, hey, this is why it matters. So this happened, and this is gonna signal this. So make sure you're opening these emails. They also have links to get more information. So if you see something like housing element, you think, what is that? You could click and it will take you to more information so you could be educated and be a part of those conversations. This month, we also added something called Policy Radar, which has more information on some of the measures that we're looking at or things that we've endorsed. So you could read more about that and follow along. So be sure to check those. They're called the Civic Brief, and if you are a member, you will get this exclusive benefit. So just another reason to be joining us. And another great announcement is we have a wrap-up, I'll say, of our new brand. So last year we brought in a new brand. We put business at the front of our name as it is the front of what we do. And so now we're going to launch a new website to match it and update our software to bring more benefits to our membership. So you'll be seeing a new app soon that will allow you to access our full member directory and make calls, shoot emails right from your phone. You'll also be able to get the slide deck every meeting. It'll just pop up in your inbox, super smooth, and change digital business cards, archiving those. It's got a plethora of benefits. One of my favorite though is you'll be able to register for events through this platform. And you're going to want to do that because we actually this year have the lineup for you early, which is rare. We don't usually like to do this because we want to be able to bring stuff hot off the press like this conversation today. But we had so many great speakers knocking at our door that we had to secure them early. So we have Senator Walden, we have Supervisor Rebecca Hermosillo. We've got conversations about tax measures. We've got conversations with Brian Sobel to talk about what happened at the end of the election in November. We've got conversations with the schools because we're seeing fewer dollars and fewer kids in school. What does that mean? So we've got a lot of great conversations coming. You'll want to have those at your phone disposal to just register, add your guests, and join us for those. So be sure to check those out as well. And a final plea, please become a member. It's so important to have every voice at the table so we're making educated decisions and advocacy moving forward. So join us. All right, now we're going to pass the mic around. We have a few special things for today. We of course have delicious beer from Couvert Brewing, thanks Don, and we also have some country summer tickets. So if you're a guest, give me your business card and you will be entered in a raffle to win these prizes. As the mic comes around, you say your name and business, and then we're going to pass it along. All right. John, you can take us out.
John Stout, Sun County Airport.
Mark Bollett, Data Instincts, Public Outreach for Water Projects.
Eric Koenig, chauffeur.
Jason Tormino, PG&E Government Affairs.
Tawny Tosconi, Tosconi Event and Management Solutions.
Renee with Fidelity National Title. Sherry Granzato with Crush, Bob, FM, Citos, and Latino, and the Drive. Good morning, Melissa Galliani, Blind Country Radio.
I'll still do a lot of things.
Paul Thompson, Argonaut Constructors, Howard Springs.
Good morning, Mark Soil and Materials. I have 3 guests today. My son Ben, he's a student at University of Utah pre-law. I have Matt Storm, who is the area manager for Granite Construction, and Eric Owenson, who is in the project management department at Granite Construction.
Good morning, Dick Dowd, past president and retired.
Good morning, Greg Hurd with BKF Engineers.
Artie Dexter, Leduc Dexter, Assistant Service Quality.
Good morning, Nick Dexter, Leduc Dexter, Super Service Quality.
Sarah Butaro, Sonoma Coast Living Real Estate, and the Bay and Beyond Vacation Home Rentals.
Morning, Claudia Vecchio, Sonoma County Tourism.
Mark Nelson, Mid-State Construction.
Ryan Long, Connected Outreach, and I have 2 guests here, Andy Fulton, Assistant General Manager with Recology, and Celia Ferber, Community Relations and Sustainability Manager.
and Rosie and Ray.
Good morning, Jindo Rosario, Sonoma County Office of Education and Schools, Rural Sonoma County.
Good morning, Crystal Vega with 707 Promotions.
Please go on time, sir. Representing myself.
Chuck Ruth, Double Eagle Financial, where we dance with the market and cash is still king.
No, you can't add on.
Joe Gaffney, St. Vincent Paul.
Rob Sandville, KLH Consulting.
Carrie Chambers, Exchange Bank Residential Mortgage.
David De Los Santos with TLCD Architecture.
Justin Hunter, Holiday Construction.
Good morning. Jonathan So, Sotheby's International Realty. I have two guests today, Robert Rainwater, Director of Operations for Transcendence Theater Company, and Michael Hyman, Business Development Coordinator for Transcendence.
Good morning, Madeline Keegan O'Connell, YWCA, Sonoma County.
Good morning, Christopher Miller, Montgomery Village. Morning, John Cregan, Santa Rosa Chief Place.
Tom Schwedel, TZS Consulting, and candidate for 4th District Supervisor.
Good morning, Haley Bly, Boys and Girls Club, Sonoma Marin.
Good morning, Terry Deal, Boys and Girls Club, Sonoma Marin.
Hi everyone, I'm Cassie Rodriguez of Montgomery Village.
Good morning, Don Mills from Sound Ideas Media.
Thanks, Julie.
Tony Stisman, 707 Promotions.
Trevor Stewart, Argonauts Constructors.
Brett Wellness with Soil and Materials.
I'm Kevin Zuko, ZFA Structural Engineers.
Roy Martinez, and Strategy.
Good morning, Sean Jean, Belgian Race Consulting Engineers.
Good morning, Ernest Burkhoff, broker and CEO of Burkhoff Realty and Alliance Board Member.
Good morning, David Brown, Adobe Associates, Civil Engineers and Land Spares.
Good morning, Kevin Jones, Fast Signs of Santa Rosa, United Way Wine Country Board Member.
Andre Moran, Belgian Race Consulting Engineer and Board Member, United Way of Wine Country.
Pete Let's Cure Engineers.
Jeff Rowland, Vietnam Glass.
Josh Goff, Depot Commercial Bank.
Carl Service, TLCD Architecture.
Sandy Sheehan, Measure B, yes. I have a guest. Guest is Dan Noble, and he addressed our environmental committee just recently. So he's here with curiosity, and as our guest, the company's name is Noble Bioresources.
Nick Fry, Glen Vineyards, and board member. And my guest is Jacqueline Blood.
Jason Shepherd with Live Oak Bank.
Jennifer Rizzo with California Apartment Association.
Sanford Bresick, Eagle Strategies.
Elder Dwyer, Real Estate, Life and Health Insurance.
Annie D'Angelo, Argonaut Constructors. Sandy Monroe, Drill Group Roofing Coordinator.
Good morning, Miles Safner, Signal Science Graphics.
Mark Hale, Carlisle Macy.
Good morning, Damian Reddy, Center Line 33.
Good morning, Samantha Paul, Samantha Paul Planning Consulting and proud Business Alliance Board Member. And I have a guest this morning, Diane Martin, partner at Park Avenue Catering.
Good morning, Jana Connors, Summit State Bank and past president.
Good morning, I have two guests this morning. I'm Paul Schwartz. My guests are Kim Cogden, and she is with a company called, Advanced Crisis Solutions, trying to remember it, which is a new business in town that just opened their doors 2 days ago, and want to welcome Kim and Katie Greenwald, who's with the Berkeley Food Bank, and she's the development director for them. Paul Schwartz, Corcoran Icon Properties, Commercial Real Estate.
Good morning, Jim Wallen, Pep Housing.
Jamie Agatha, Sonoma Clean Power.
I'm Jason Lee Rosen, School District, also board member. Take out your phone, mark August 1st, paddle for pages at Center Line, right over Park. Come on, microphone. It's going to be a great event. There's going to be drink, food, pickleball, and good people, so I don't know what else you need. August 1st, make sure you're there. We didn't use up all the juice. Gary Lentz, New American Funding, Home Mortgage.
Dan Rosacci with the Roundborn Group at Morgan Stanley.
Megan Rhodes, Santa Rosa Junior College, and I'm so starting to go on right now.
Lisa Friedman with GMH Builders.
Tiffany Godby here, GMH Builders.
And Doug Marshall with GMH Builders.
Good morning, Ken LaFranchi, architect, and I have a guest, Brian Keegan, Copeland Real Estate.
John Rudolph, PCD, Commercial Audio Video Contractors.
Steve Click, Power Associates, President of the Board for Sonoma County Fire District.
Scott Crossan with Bolt Staffing.
Kyle Redford with ZFA Structural Engineers.
Ryan Stiles, Angled Volkers Real Estate in Yanni.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Terry Sanders, candidate for Santa Rosa City Council in the 4th District.
Mike Pickens, District Rep for the Operating Engineers and Board Member for the SLB Measure B.
Mark Stapp, Sonoma State University and Santa Rosa City Council.
Good morning, Kurt Nichols, past president, retired.
Alright, I'm short on these guys. You don't want to go to country summer, you don't want beer? Come on, do you have a business card, you're a guest, please make sure to put one in, otherwise you're going to miss the opportunity. So, give me those now. And while you're grabbing those cards out, I will say, Paddle for Pages is going to be a blast. If you don't know how to play pickleball, there's going to be opportunities to learn before, and if you don't want to play pickleball, there's still beer. And there's wine, and there'll be food, and it will be a good time anyway. So come help us raise money for a really good cause. All the dollars are going to support kids in our area. So this is a passion project by our education committee. And with that, Howard, thank you. I'll have Tommy pull some cards, and we'll get the show on the road. All right, so it's a race to the front, guys, but we've got 2 winners. We've got Michael from Kinsington Theater, and then Kelly Squire from Wine Country.
It is my pleasure to introduce today's speaker. I don't think he's a stranger to any of us. He's been with us for quite a time. John Stout has been the airport manager at the Charles M. Schultz Sonoma County Airport for over 20 years. I think in those decades that he's been there, we've seen a huge improvement in our airport. We've seen runway expansions, increased riderships, and actually a lot of people kind of see it as a great experience because of the wonderful restaurant and outdoor areas and everything like that. I fly in and out of this airport quite a bit, and whether I'm talking to somebody, because I like to talk, or I just overhear conversations, people are just amazed at how easy it is to access the airport. It's very quick to get in and out of it, and visitors into our community really enjoy how close they can get to wine country without having to fly into one of the Bay Area airports. So very excited to have John here today to hear what's going to happen with our airport. Come on up.
All right, trying to do a good job here. All my notes are on paper. So good morning, everybody.
Thank you for the continued support of the airport. I'd like to start with the background of the airport. You're all very familiar with us, but last year we had 79,000 operations, and about 14% of that is the airline traffic, and another 13% is corporate or general aviation jet traffic. So the jets do make up about 27% of our total traffic. And our peak year for operations was actually quite a few decades ago. 1978 was our busiest year at the airport with over 200,000 operations. So it's changed a lot. Our fleet mix has changed drastically compared to the 1970s. That was a lot more propeller, smaller aircraft. But the airport itself is an enterprise fund within the public infrastructure for Sonoma County. As an enterprise fund, we do pay our own way and cover our own expenses. We generate all of our own income off the airport. We have a budget of about $26 million for next fiscal year, starting July 1st. $14 million of that is operating, $10 million is capital. We have 29 airport direct employees that are county employees, over 400 employees at the airport based on all the businesses. And right now, I think Alaska is our largest employer on the airport they're up to 75 employees. So it is a busy little operation. And we do have 14 FAA controllers. And so we're proud to have actual controllers at the airport. And we have 35 contracted TSA agents. So during the DHS shutdown, they actually got paid. So one of the benefits of our contractor, we didn't have those impacts at our airports of 20% of the security officers not showing up. So we appreciate that partnership and commitment from them. And I do like to interact it a little bit. I'm going to try and build the story about where we are and go to where we're going on the airport and get into our capital projects. 2025 was our busiest year ever. We peaked at 15 destinations. Bella was at the airport, 3 airlines. We averaged 16 departures per day, averaging over 2,000 passengers a day. Our peak month was July last year at 77,000 passengers. And you'll see through the upcoming slides, our top destinations changed slightly. Last year was Seattle, Los Angeles, and San Diego. So far for the first 6 months of the year, all the airlines did not have all of their schedules out for sale before I finish the slide deck, so I don't have the rest of the year. But we're right now peaking at 12 destinations, back to 3 airlines, and we're at 18 departures per day. And we'll be averaging 3,100 passengers. For the first half of the year, we're estimating over 431,000 passengers. And a slight change in our top markets. And we're looking at, go back to the busiest year, we finished last year at 780,000 passengers. It was only up 1%, considering that we lost a carrier in August. Still finishing the year up 1% was we're very pleased that we were negative. And Alaska and the return of Southwest will change our 26 to a very large record-breaking year. We're estimating right now that we'll finish 2026 with over 925,000 passengers. And then here's where I'm going to build a little story on the airline side. And ask me what you wanted to hear today. It was more about the story of how we got Southwest and what's going on at the airport. And airlines are very much about the numbers. So we start with the high level looking down, and we present this data to the airlines, trying to get in front of them and explain how good the market is. And it's all about passengers, how many people are likely to put on the aircraft. So we do a lot of data analysis. We get the DOT data, the pulse ticket data. So when you buy a ticket, you put in your zip code. It tells us that you buy a ticket from San Francisco to New York. And we pick that up. We can also pick up those flights coming inbound. And through other data sources, we can tell that they do come into Sonoma County. And in 2024, the last full year we have data for, there are over 6 million passengers traveling into and out of our catchment area. And that's another term the airlines like, is catchment area. And that is where you're likely to capture your passengers from. We consider our catchment area San Rafael North. And that includes all the way up to Humboldt. We do get passengers out of Humboldt County as their service ebbs and flows over time. But in that area, it's about 850,000 total residents. and it's generating 8,300 passengers per day each way, with 45% of those being the local user and 55% being visiting traffic. Then we boil that down a little bit more, and we look at where are those passengers leaking. Again, going back into those aviation technical terms, leakage is a very important factor. San Francisco by far is the largest airport that our residents and visitors come and use. Just over almost 5,000 passengers per day each way, then Sacramento, then Oakland, then San Jose. So it's about 7,300 passengers a day using other airports. We're capturing 951 a day. We're up, looking in 20 through first quarter, we're up to 12% capture rate. So that has grown a little bit. And our leakage has dropped to 88%. Little bit percentages. But then we boil that down even farther. They want to know what's going on in markets. So these are our passengers per day for our top markets, and what percent are using other airports. So even when we do have service nonstop out of Santa Rosa, we're still only averaging about a 74% capture rate. And when we start talking to airlines, we take this data and say, for example, San Diego. There's 481 passengers per day each way, so almost 900 passengers going to San Diego, either from or to our area, with the bulk of them going to another airport. And since we're still leaking 76%, we can tell airlines, and we told Southwest this, there's still a lot of passengers that can be captured. Or Alaska, there's more opportunity for you to add more flights per day to capture more instead of having them use another airport. And then if the airlines are still questioning it, well, that's going to take away passengers on flights we already have. So why would we put a plane in metal in Santa Rosa? We can then dig in deeper and say, well, the North Bay passengers, yeah, they're going to San Diego, but they're using United. They're using these other carriers. They're not using you. So if you come here, you're more likely to capture that traffic or use them on your routes. So again, it goes back to that numbers game. You keep digging, and they have all this data as well. That when they're looking at 430 commercial airports across the U.S., they're all, hey, you want service? It is a challenge to prove how you're a good market. And then they want you to go into what's unique about your market. And that's where Southwest comes in. Southwest, by far, has been the most talked about service coming into Santa Rosa. We're still getting all the media play. The initial launch on April 7th was tremendous from a media standpoint, and people are still talking about the connectivity and the options that they bring to town. Vegas and San Diego are huge connection opportunities for us and them. So going back to those numbers, we illustrated the importance of Santa Rosa to Southwest, to their network, to their customer. We showed them that Santa Rosa is the largest airport within California that they did not serve by a passenger count per day. We showed them that over time and changes in networks at other airports and in Santa Rosa, that their capture rate out of Santa Rosa dropped from 2001 at a 32% capture rate. So 32% of the users in the North Bay in 2001 were using Southwest. By 2025, that dropped to 20%. So they were losing market share out of the North Bay to other carriers. And we also got into their frequent flyer program. We talked about the benefits that they have. They have a huge frequent flyer program, and we showed that benefit on the inbound side. Working with the Sonoma County Tourism Bureau and all the chambers, we were able to show that visiting traffic and say, okay, you may not be given to Chicago, but if you do Denver, now they can do a one-stop through Chicago and redeem their miles coming into Sonoma County. We also created kind of a sense of urgency. It's a game, I will admit, but with the Vela leaving, we were able to show that we have space for you. We have a small terminal. At some point, we're going to run out of room at the parking gates for the aircraft. We only have so many ticket counters. Right now, we have 2 ticket counter positions open and 2 gate counters open. So we kind of push that, probably a little more than realistically, but it worked. So if you want to get it for somebody else, because when we run out of space, somebody else can come and compete against you. We also use mobile data device information to show the high-end demographics. Again, it's that numbers game. With the changes that they're doing in their system and network, they're trying to drive more value. That hostile takeover-ish thing that happened on their stocks and changing the direction. They're now more focused, like other airlines, adding more value to the tickets. So they want those higher-end travelers that are more likely to buy that better seat and spend more on the route. But the biggest thing that helped is we worked with a lot of partners in this room. They wanted to come to town and get a feel for the market. We did that in August, and we 2 days, showed them a great time. And one of the days was 20 people in the room. They wanted to hear the stories. Why do you want us to come to town? What do you need? And everybody in the room, without scripting and coaching, said, we hate 101, you don't want to drive. If you're here, we're going to use you. And then some of the randomness of where people said they wanted to go was kind of interesting. But they wanted those stories. What is happening in some that we don't know about, and why does it make sense for our network? And through all those efforts and 15 plus years of knocking on their door saying, why are we in Santa Rosa? And them saying, well, you're a favorite market we can't serve. They finally announced on April 7th they started service. So that was a whirlwind, and right now we're feeling a little bit like we caught the car, trying to absorb them into the airport and getting them operational and dealing with the joys of success, if you will. Terminals getting a little more busy, parking lots are getting a little more busy, so we're working on all of those. But can't talk about air service without our partnership with Alaska. Alaska will be celebrating 20 years next spring, so we're very happy that they're a partner in the airport. They've also done significant growth in Santa Rosa, and they see the benefits of increasing that activity. Through the same kind of data, we worked with them to show them jet leakage that they were not capturing, other markets that they were missing out on frequencies of markets they served. They analyzed the data. We also presented that at some point we need to upgauge to a larger aircraft. They're doing 2 737 flights a day, one to Seattle, and later this year they'll be doing 2. They're also going to start temporarily 737 to Las Vegas. And we have continued to talk to them about new markets. And it does get a little harder because you have to fit an airline's network and what has to make sense from a strategic point for them. And Alaska is a point-to-point carrier. We'd love them to do more eastbound, but a lot of those eastbound connections, they just don't have the strength there to do beyond connections. There's still opportunities there. But because of all of that, they have grown over 100% in their seats since 2003, or 23. And unfortunately, I can't say a whole lot, but look for the news tomorrow. There might be some additions coming from them later this fall. So very excited about that coming out. But October is our busiest month of the year. And in October this year, we will have 13 nonstop destinations. And on the right shows all the frequencies per day, the DEW departures daily each way, seats daily each way. So some of these flights are less than daily. You can tell that by Austin, it's only 0.2. So they're 1 day a week. Others, you can see that they're up to 3 departures a day. San Diego, LAX, so there's improvements in their frequency. That puts us at 2,375 daily seats. That's up 78% from 2025. And in 25, we have 10 destinations, 1,329 seats, and that even factors in the reduction of the Velo leaving in August. So very excited about that. And with all those changes, our top 10 markets by seats has changed. San Diego, between the service from Southwest and Alaska, is going to be our top market by seats at almost 135,000 seats. Followed by Burbank, Seattle, Las Vegas, and Portland. And you can tell the changes for San Diego, Burbank, and Las Vegas are because of that competition with Southwest and Alaska. I'd like to see Denver a little higher up there, but and same with Dallas. We're continuing to work on that. And then looking across all of our seats for the year, 2026 is going to be our best year ever, as I mentioned. And this is the daily seats each way. October peaking at the 2,300, and that puts October at a potential of over 100,000 passengers for the month. And going into the economic benefits of it all, we did our last economic impact statement in 2021, where we were averaging 10 daily departures. We were at a $228 million economic impact, direct and indirect, creating and supporting 1,700 jobs. And unfortunately, the economic impact's not really linear, straight line, but at 21 departures a day, that puts us at about 270 to 300 million. And we'll be starting a new economic impact study this fall. So that'll be underway, and we'll get those numbers out as soon as we can. And when we finish that study, my aviation commission wanted to know what does that represent as part of the overall county economy. So they also dug in, and we're almost a 1%. And with the success, you know, we have a great partnership with many organizations, but we want to highlight the SMART connection and also push it as the smart way to fly. So no pun on words there. But with all this growth, parking is getting tighter, so we're encouraging more use of the train. They've been increasing the frequency. They have the ride pango, the shuttle going from the station to the airport. It's easy on and off. And you can get that by app, or the airport and the train station are the two dedicated stops, so you don't need to have the app. But we also do reservations. So if you go to the airport website, you can do a reservation for a parking spot. You guarantee when you come, you have a space reserved for you. We also have valet and other options. We're doing some upgrades in our parking facility. We're going to be going to a license plate read in and out starting July 1st, which will get rid of those horrible ticket spitters and make it a little bit more of a streamlined experience. And if you're a frequent flyer at the airport, you can create an account and you can have that on record, and you don't have to do anything when you come and go. They just build it to your account. You can change credit cards to a company or personal, and it's streamlined, recognizes your license plate, and the gate goes up for you. Hopefully that'll make it a more streamlined experience. And we are very busy other than just the airline activity. We have a lot of capital projects that are in the works. Our 5-year capital plan is about 100 to 110 million, assuming all of our grants can come through. With the biggest one being the runway project. I don't have a graphic for it because it's basically an overlay. But that's going to be about a $40 million component. We're in work right now with Granite on the reconstruction of our airline apron, repaving 2 existing airline parking spaces, adding 2 more. Another benefit for the passengers is at the end of the project, we'll have a covered walkway that will go to the farthest spot from the terminal. So in our occasions where we have heavy rain, you'll be able to get to the nose of the aircraft at all of our spots and not have to do the mad dash to get in the plane without being drenched. Depending on the last grants on that, we're hoping to finish that project up in about 12 to 18 months. We're not overstating selling the completion time. We're also working on land side improvements. We are getting ready to put out a bid for a consolidated rental car facility and changes to Airport Boulevard. That bid package will be hitting the streets hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And that'll do a reconfiguration of the rental car facilities, potentially add a roundabout by the main part of the airport. At Airport, Laughlin, and Skylane, the County Roads Department is already working on a roundabout there, so that construction will start next year. That's about a $35 million project, and then following quickly behind it is we're working with, it's really fun working with your boss. Hey, I need to evict you off the airport. Can you move your road yard? I need to put a parking lot there. Luckily, Johannes has been understanding, not necessarily favorable, but we are looking at putting about another 1,000 spaces of parking in that location and moving the road yard to somewhere else. And then we're also working on a new firefighting facility. We are working with the Sonoma County Fire District to make this into a potential joint use station so they can do an off-airport response in the airport business area. So they're participating in the design process. And right now it looks like we will start construction on that by fall of next year. And that should be funded by about an 85 to 90% federal grant. And we're looking very much forward to that. Our current fire station is a 1972 vintage. Doesn't hold all of our equipment. And having the joint use part will be a huge benefit for the airport area and the airport itself. With that, I'm open for questions.
All right, thank you, John. I'm going to join on stage for a few questions and then we'll open it up to everyone else. Thank you, John. All right, so as passenger demands grow, how are you balancing expansion with community concern around noise, traffic, without capping the economic potential?
That's been a very active thing for the last 2 years. It doesn't help when your partners do changes that they don't tell us about and change procedures that have great impacts on the community. As everybody, well, most of you have heard, the FAA imposed a procedure called the Redhead. It is a south and north departure procedure, and they now say aircraft can start their turns at 600 feet above sea level. That's extremely low. The old procedures were 2,000 feet before they started turns. Huge change, and it did put them more over Occidental area in a climbing turn, so it is a noise impact. We're aware of it. The FAA has not been very cooperative or helpful in trying to resolve it. The airport commissioned a study with Cygnus to redesign originally arrival procedures. And then as we're nearing completion of that phase, the Redhead came out. And so we've been working with them to look at options for redesigning that program and process. We are anticipating doing outreach meetings in July to introduce what look like are changes that the FAA will accept. The FAA has made it clear that they will not accept a total change to the FAA system in the Bay Area. So we have to work within the framework of what points they've already got. So it will add some benefit, but it's not going to be a wholesale change. There will be improvement on noise and flight paths. However, it's not going to be a fix at all.
All right, thank you. And the Denver route, I had the privilege of sitting in that room with all the people talking about why Southwest should come here, and it was an easy sell for us as we all value the Sonoma County here. But the Denver route was a hot topic in that, and it was discussed as a tourism win. But I'm curious, from an economic development perspective, what industry or business sectors do you think will have the most to gain from an intersection in Denver?
I wouldn't say it's limited to any one industry. The benefit with Southwest is the scale of their network. Denver has over 300 daily departures, and so if they were to actually increase that to a daily option at a time that works, now you can get to a lot more points to the east, and really we're about that convenience. We want to provide the services that the community likes and needs. I don't like driving to SFO any more than anybody else. And if I can do a one-stop connection, I'll do that over that drive. And the more points I have to do connections and not be limited to Seattle or San Diego, it's greatly appreciated.
I think we did joke that we wanted a flight directly to Hawaii, so maybe that's coming down the line, but yeah, see? Put that on the list. All right, so what's the single biggest constraint in the way of the expansion and continuing of aggressive scaling of the airport? I'm sure that you mentioned already some of the red tape you're dealing with, but what else is there? Is it like terminal? Is it policy? Is it community concerns? What's the number one?
I'd say it's going to be parking. We are already at a point on the weekends where we are above capacity. We do have procedures in place. We try to minimize the impact on our traveling public. We want them to have as good of an experience as they can. We are lucky in the fact that we do have on-street parking, so that is an opportunity, but when that is at 90% and the parking lots are at 90%, we do have valet. So at that point, when it's difficult to find the space, nobody likes driving 10, 15 minutes when their flight's leaving an hour trying to find that parking spot. We do open up valet at the long-term parking lot rate. Drop your car, drop your keys, we'll take care of it. So parking is going to be our biggest issue over the next 18 to 24 months until we get the rental car facility moving. Once that happens, we will be able to move the roughly 125 spaces that the rental car uses in the short-term, long-term, and street parking and open up more. The other is the airline apron that we are working on the project. So We unfortunately don't schedule the times for the airlines, and generally they spread them out. However, Murphy is a friend in the airline industry because of weather, ATC, other issues. When the planes arrive early or somebody's delayed, we can have 6, 7 aircraft on the ground at a time. There's only 4 parking spots. And like American, they only operate in the middle of the day. They do 3 flights a day. They have a crew to handle 1 airplane. And if they get 2 on the ground, unfortunately somebody's waiting until they can get the other aircraft off. It's not because we're delaying them or preventing them from using other gates. It's their crew. So those are the 2 biggest constraints right now.
All right. And during the process of getting Southwest here, there was a bit of a SWOT analysis of Sonoma County, and you were able to identify some of the things that brought Southwest here, right? The things that they considered strengths and decided it was the reason they're here, right? What were some of those strengths and what were some of the challenges that you guys uncovered in the conversations with Southwest?
The challenges for Southwest was just their strategic plan and what they were going to be changing as part of their overall changes to the organization. So we didn't know how that was going to impact it, and they had some uncertainty, if you will, on their internal side. We think our market's always been a positive for them, and they should have been here a while ago. But that's just our thinking. And I think what really helped was those stories that were presented by the partners in the room, and then demonstrating to them, you lost 12% market share. You're losing here. You really want to do that? You have a strong following in the North Bay, but because of the convenience from Alaska and other opportunities, they lost a significant portion. And it was also adding value to their frequent flyer program. It was surprising when we had the launch flight, they announced, we're going to do a wide flies free type thing. So they recognized that value to their frequent flyer. And I think it was more to the overall system and network than, say, specifically our one dot.
That's a case of wine, right?
This is.
Case of wine, all right. All right, so how difficult is it today for a regional airport like STS to compete for airline routes against the larger Bay Area airports? What are the challenges?
The first challenge is if you're talking to airline planners that are based in, say, Atlanta or Chicago, they don't understand the Bay Area. And so it's usually having to educate them about the 101 and the difficulty of driving to the Bay Area and convincing them that even though they're capturing those travelers today, people hate that drive so bad they'll pay a little bit more to use the local airport. And once we can get past that, that seems to work. It's not because they're doing a better job than we are. We have a really good story to tell. We have a lot of potential users that want convenience.
Amen. All right, and the last question is, as the Alliance, we are an advocacy group. What can we do to support any initiatives that you have to help you soar to new heights?
I have to be careful in that. You know, I am only a division manager, and there is lobbying efforts as controlled by the board, but ours is funding. We have a lot of difficulties with the FAA because that is where it's more competitive than sometimes the air service, getting those grants to keep those capital projects moving. You know, you wouldn't think an overlay on a runway would be $40 million, but it is. We have 150 feet wide of pavement, 6,000 feet long. It's almost the equivalent of a 9-lane freeway. So it's a lot of 14 lane miles. So it's a lot of pavement. Right? And if we go, you know, how they define the project, we may have to do some upgrades because they've changed standards over time. And if we do that and start getting into our turf area, if you will, or closer to some of the vernal pools, we could be, you know, how far they define that need. I have to regrade my entire safety area around the airport, part of the runway, because the slopes of requirements have changed a little bit. We could be looking at $60 million in just mitigation. It's CTS habitat, Berks Goldfield habitat. CTS would be the cheaper one, the Berks Goldfield would be very expensive. So that's been a challenge working with them. We're hoping to do the runway in 27, but because of trying to define how large that rehab is with the FAA, because they don't want to make a decision, it could be either 40 million or 100 million. I think just doing the overlay and keep the payment and not dealing with some of, we're talking 0.5% to 1% difference in grades. So, a little too technical, sorry.
We do have a program in August that we're preparing for to talk about the red tape of building and growth in Sonoma County, so stay tuned for that. And I think it's felt everywhere. So, all right, and with that, we'll open up to questions in the audience. If you have a question, just raise your hand. We'll walk over the mic. Oh, Terry, you're gonna make me go all the way back there.
That's right, come. It only gets easier after
I
this.
know. Well, you're gonna stay that not in heels.
If I wore heels, I'd be 10 feet tall. Thanks for being here, appreciate it. How far south or how far northeast, I guess, is sort of the 50-50 point for someone who could make the decision to go to Santa Rosa or SFO or Santa Rosa or Sacramento, and then repeat that value proposition as to why that person should forego San Francisco or Sacramento and come to the STS?
From the south perspective, in terms of driving time, San Rafael, that is the point we consider just north of San Rafael to be a logical point to come to Santa Rosa. And that's where we also partner with SMART, since they go up to the Bay, that SMART can help with some of that traffic, get them off of 101 as well. We are seeing more travelers using the train as they've added that frequency. Right now, they're covering about 75% of our flight operations with their schedule. So depending on when people are trying to fly, it doesn't quite work. And then once you start getting into the southern Napa, northern Napa definitely works easier to come to Sonoma County. The south part of Sonoma, it gets into a little more iffy proposition of Sacramento versus us. So it's not a solid line, it's kind of blurry, and we're still working on that. And it comes down to, is it a summer weekend day where there's a lot of visitors and the roads are busy, and it's all that balancing game.
John, question over here. So you have mentioned Oakland.
I'm curious about the impact of Oakland or Oakland's traffic from Sonoma County or from the region that you draw.
So if I understand the question, what's the Oakland and some of their challenges and draw? Since COVID, Oakland has not really come back to what they were. They lost a lot of their low carrier options, and they also have some challenges around the airport. So what I hear is people don't like. They like Oakland because it's a little easier than San Francisco to use, but it's the area getting to the airport that they don't like. There's been a lot of crime and other issues just before the airport, and people are avoiding it for that. And because they've lost those connections and other opportunities, people aren't looking at it as much. They used to be almost 50%.
Of our
Yes.
draw.
What are some of the positives and what are some of the negatives to the community to become positives? It doesn't work. So what are some of the positives to Sonoma County of expanding the airport, business development, business that makes benefit? And what are some of the negatives? Crime, traffic, parking.
So the positive of the growth, it's a convenience factor for both residents and tourism. The numbers are there, people are traveling. Sonoma County and the North Bay does have a high propensity to travel. If you look at the demographics, they're making averaging multiple trips a year. So being able to have low frequency and options gives them benefit. It's a benefit to the business community because now they're not having to pay employees to go to the Bay Area. It shortens that travel day for their employees, gives them another option. We do have quite a few businesses that have other teams come into the airport and they do their meetings here and then they can fly out. And on the tourism side, that goes where the partnership with our agencies and others works very well. The airlines need butts and seats. We need heads and beds. the flying traveler stays longer, spends more than the drive traffic. And so it's a higher quality visitor than some of the drive traffic. And so that's where our partnership does really well, even though we're such a small percentage of the overall visitation in Sonoma County. The negative is, of course, the noise and the changes in flight paths, so we are dealing with that. We have traffic impacts around the airport area, but again, even if we're at the 900,000, we're still a very small percentage of those people. They would have been using the Bay Area regardless of what we have. So it's either here or it was there. So it's just shifting where those traffic patterns are going, and same with the aircraft. We haven't seen any changes or differences in crime or anything like that. So we don't have that kind of status.
Mr. Dillon.
Okay, I'll just shout it. Mr. Scout, what the elephant in the room for me is gas prices and availability and the cost. We've already seen it shut down Spirit Airlines. How is it impacting our
So far, we have not seen an impact on our partners. The gas prices are definitely impacting them overall. The financial reports have come out for the first quarter, and they've all taken a hit because of the increased fuel costs. There have been cuts across the system at all the airlines. They are now looking at where they're getting the best returns and where they're able to make the premiums. And clearly, we're made a comment that Alaska is going to be doing more. So they're seeing things here that is better than somewhere else. So they're not cutting here because they see opportunity still. Doesn't mean if that continues on a long duration that won't change, but right now they see that it's still working and viable in Santa Rosa compared to some of their markets that are not performing as well. At the moment, none of our partners are talking about any cuts or restrictions or changes in Santa Rosa.
Right, Renee, we're getting batteries, so you're on.
The talking stick.
Yep, you have the talking stick.
I have a question kind of about the airport, and do you have a vision for when it's all grown up? In other words, it's at capacity, this is what this airport's going to be.
The visions had to change a little bit. We were not expecting this kind of growth in this short of a period, but we've kind of looked at Santa Barbara as kind of what the vision is, a very good regional airport. There's potential for 32 to 38 departures a day. Not overly large, but keep that convenience, keep the flights sufficient to meet the needs, but not too aggressive. People say, are you become a San Jose of the North? We don't have the population base that San Jose does within a 60-mile radius. They're three to four times larger population than we are. So I'd say in terms of vision, that is what it is. We're constrained as how large the terminal can get, how much parking we can have. We can't add another 50 to 70,000 square feet to the terminal, but we have to do changes. We have to move the fire station, we have to do roadway improvements, and we need to figure out what to do with parking.
So just a quick follow-up, so is that from like a percentage? Are we halfway there? Are we 75%?
We are hitting almost 21 flights a day right now, so that's a little, we're 60% of the way there.
Go ahead, Pete.
I have two questions. One, I'd like to ask you about the noise level over West County. That can be done on a phone call. Is interested in that. Is that possible to talk with you?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm just curious about the relationship with our casinos and Las Vegas. Is there any, are you watching the growth of our casinos, and does that affect Las Vegas or not?
I think they are pretty independent. We do talk a lot with Creighton, and they're working on a campaign for for advertising in the terminal, so we're working on a partnership to come on that. With their expansion of the casino and the facilities they're building, it creates another opportunity for more groups, conferences, if you will. That's an area that we see more opportunity, but you have to have the facilities for it. I don't see that changing what our traffic is doing to Vegas. It's different. There's just another amenity that we have. I don't know if I look at them as the same thing. Yeah, they have slot machines and some other things, but they also we have other things too.
Can you talk a little bit, oh look, our mic's working, guys. Can you talk a little bit about the SMART and airport collaboration and how people can utilize SMART to get their flight?
SMART has seen as part of their vision, it's always been the last miles where the biggest problem is for SMART. And we were the first facility that used the ground transportation, their shuttle bus, that Ride Pingo app. They were able to get a grant to start that at the airport station. And it will take passengers within up to 1.5 miles from the station. But they have a fixed stop at the airport, so every 15 minutes they're coming to the airport from the station. And where we work with them is helping to educate people that that is an option. And also on, hey, you're trained to match the flights better. So we get closer to 100%. We have quite a few flights after 10 o'clock we have 4 flights after 10. They can't connect. And our first 3 flights of the day don't connect with the train either. So that morning and end of the day is not quite there. But they've done some really good additions this spring, and we're actually meeting in another week and a half to go through ways we can boost that partnership and boost informing the public about the SMART connection.
I actually have 2 questions. One, why are people choosing the Lincoln station? Why are they choosing not to use our airport? I think from the standpoint of just pricing, pretty, is it more the flight times? Is it
It's a couple factors. Pricing is definitely one of them.
Repeat the question.
So the question was, what are the main factors behind the leakage and why they're choosing to use San Francisco? I think I summarized it. And there's a couple factors. Price is one, of course. If you're on an expense report, if you will, your desire to drive is not as great because companies that pay for it. Then there's the value of your time. It's easier when it's you traveling alone versus a family of 6. So that pricing plays more of a factor if you're in a group setting. But another big factor is the frequencies and timing. So if we only have the one a day and it's at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you need to be somewhere at a certain time, that is a factor. And then also people look at the total travel time. Some of our connections through the hub airports can add some, you might be looking at 2.5 hour wait at those airports, depending on how willing you are to have that, versus a nonstop out of San Francisco. So those nonstop to the east destinations is harder to compete with for us. Because right now you have to go to Seattle or San Diego or Vegas to really get that connectivity. I'm not trying to downplay American, but their frequency to Dallas is horrible. It's not year round. Phoenix, yeah, they're finally doing 2 a day, but they're not doing the right times. If they did a morning departure to start the day, then you can get into those eastbound banks, which makes it more reliable. You don't want to get in the East Coast at 11 o'clock at night. So those are the 3 main factors that we see and we hear. Well, why can't you get us to that hub at 8 in the morning instead of 4 in the afternoon, and then I wait an hour and a half? So those are the primary factors, and a few years ago, we just didn't have the markets. Now with the number of destinations we have and the frequencies that have been added in the last couple of years, we're more looked at because we have more options and we have more reliability. It's not just the one flight, now we have several.
The second question is related to that.
So the question is, what is our strategy looking forward? Is it increasing current or new airlines? It's easier to grow what you have. So that is our focus. We have really good partners. American doesn't listen well. We keep pushing that year-round Dallas. They've got other issues than me bugging them about Dallas year-round. Other than that, Alaska has done very well. They've listened quite a bit on additions and changes and frequencies. Now we're starting to work that with Southwest. We're already talking to them about other opportunities, and we're hoping to get a partner meeting with tourism later in June to push Love Field. So there's those types of opportunities. We do talk to other air carriers. I'll be going to an air service conference in June. The industry changes, so people move, so we try and get FaceTime. But you also have to meet the airline's network and their strategic plan. If it doesn't fit, they're not going to do anything no matter how good of a market you have. And that's been a struggle, and kind of wondered why Delta hasn't done anything. But they haven't done anything on the West Coast really for a long time other than Seattle. They've been focused on the East and they weren't doing any regional markets on the West Coast for 10 years. And when they're not doing it, they didn't take meetings with us for that long. So Delta is still a desired operator. Breeze is a potential candidate. They've got an aircraft that could do Hawaii out of Santa Rosa. They could do Boston. They could do New York. They've got a smaller aircraft with some good reach. And I think it's 130 seats. But again, right now they are focused almost exclusively on the East Coast. So those would be primary. Yeah, we're going to meet with the usual suspects, but odds are not very likely anytime in the near future for anybody, given fuel and some of the other uncertainties. So we're definitely focusing on our current partners. Long answer.
I have another question for a real estate standpoint, for property value. Do you see property values increasing as a result of an expansion? And what is the buyer going to look like? Do you have any idea? More investors out of the area?
Don't really have a whole lot of information or detail on that. We did find that we saw more second home ownership increasing due to the service growth, the flight growth. A lot of those were from Southern California. It just made it easier for them to come up and have a second home. But other than that, we don't have a lot of detail or reports into that specific area.
John, question. How likely are we going to be getting service back to Redmond, nonstop, and or Boise?
Well, that's a tough question. Say no stuff that I can't say right now. But
you can trust
yes.
us. Go ahead. Speak up.
I got a little enthusiastic on a discussion with Alaska about Hawaii. They said, well, it's interesting. And I said, we had an interesting discussion. People said they were going to start service, so they got a little more tight-lipped. I would say one of those has potential, one does not.
So I love our airport. I like using it every time I can. But I'm one of those people that lives in a flight path. And you just said something that I wondered about, because it seemed like the noise levels have been increasing considerably, in the last, year or so. And I wonder if there's any chance of local ordinance or something for the airport that would restrict or trump FAA rules about the turning radius or elevation for the planes, or if there's other things we could do to, lobby FAA to get them to change that back to what it was. I don't understand why they would have changed it, without any kind of consultation or local ordinances.
So the short answer is no. The FAA claims exclusive jurisdiction on aircraft movement. There is the 1990 Airways and Noise Capacity Act, and that precluded airports and communities from putting those restrictions on operations at airports. So it is federally preempted. The Redhead departure was designed and put in place to deal with the Bay Area traffic, not Santa Rosa. So it was dealing with a problem out of our area, and people in Seattle essentially drew a line to move our aircraft away from going straight into the San Francisco Bay Area Metroplex. And they were trying to solve their problems, not ours. Our Board of Supervisors and congressional delegation have been working with the FAA, and the FAA has been non-responsive. They look at the nation system, not Santa Rosa. And that's why we initiated our own study, and that company can design procedures, so we're designing procedures that we will give to the FAA for their review and hopeful implementation. Again, it's not going to solve all the problems, but we want to have a further extension to the south before the turns, a higher altitude before the turns, so that will reduce noise. It's not going to solve all noise. Planes make noise. And going back to the local part of it, the county does have a general plan, and that plan studied 21 daily departures, which we're just now hitting. And so we are still within what we studied. We will have to be looking at the future though. And the county is working on a general plan update. So that is part of some of the discussions that are involved. Long answer with a horrible response. FAA, yeah, they're not our friends right now on noise. And they look at it completely different than you would as an individual. You hear that one plane, you hear it as a single event, and you hear it at that decibel level. They look at the community noise equivalent level, which is looking at a 365-day averaging. They do give extra weight for night and evening flights. But for them, if it's below a 65 decibel level for that 24-hour period, it's not a noise problem. You still have a noise problem because the plane flew over and it may have been 85 decibels. You're annoyed, but the FAA doesn't look at it that way.
The one at 11 o'clock is
John, you're looking for parking and SMART is looking for passengers. I'm sure you've noticed that Katati parking lot of Airport and 101 is mostly empty all the time. Has anybody talked about having SMART Connect go over there once in a while and bring you some passengers?
We have, but I'm still trying to figure out how to get Caltrans to approve it because they really don't like us to have long-term storage there. So we are working on that.
All right, thanks so much, John. Can we get a round of applause?
All right, well, thank you. And John, it is awesome to have you at the helm or control panel or whatever you call what they use on a plane. So thank you all for being here. Again, membership is key to our organization. So, and I don't know if you all caught the QR code, but if you paid for your lunch today, or your breakfast today, and you have 48 hours to actually join as a member, and you get that $45 back. So hopefully you all consider that. June 3rd is our next presentation. It's going to be a little bit of a follow-up to the last couple months. It's a conversation about tourism, and I think Claudia's in the room somewhere. She's going to be one of our speakers talking about what our tourism division is looking at doing and how we're going to flex a little bit from some of the changes we've seen with our wine industry. So thank you all for being here. Again, have a great Mother's Day for those of you who might